The Law of One, Session 89, June 9, 1982.
89.0 RA, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now.
89.1 Questioner. Could you first please give me the condition of the instrument?
I am Ra. It is as previously stated.
89.2 Questioner. I have two questions. Of a personal nature. First, during the last intensive meditation, the instrument experienced very strong conditioning from an entity which did not identify itself, and which did not leave when she asked it to. Will you tell us what was occurring then?
I am Ra. We find the instrument to have been given the opportunity to become a channel for a previously known friend. This entity was not able to answer the questioning of spirits in the name of Christ, as is this instrument's distortion of the means of differentiating betwixt those of positive and those of negative orientation. Therefore, after some resistance, the entity found the need to take its leave.
89.3 Questioner. Was this particular entity the fifth density visitor that we have had quite often previously?
I am Ra. This is correct.
89.4 Questioner. Is he back with us at this time?
I am Ra. No. The attempt to speak was due to the vigilant eye of the minions of this entity, which noted what one may call a surge of natural telepathic ability upon the part of the instrument. This ability is cyclical, of the 18 diurnal period cycle, as we have mentioned aforetimes. Thusly, this entity determined to attempt another means of access to the instrument by free will.
89.5 Questioner. Was this what I might refer to as an increase of ability to receive telepathically over a broader range of basic frequencies, so as to include not only the Confederation but this particular entity?
I am Ra. This is incorrect. The high point of the cycle sharpens the ability to pick up the signal but does not change the basic nature of the carrier wave. Shall we say, there is greater power in the receiving antenna.
89.6 Questioner. This question may be meaningless, but would a fifth density entity of the Confederation, who was positively polarized, transmit on the same frequency as our negatively polarized fifth density companion?
I am Ra. This is correct and is the reason that the questioning of all contacts is welcomed by the Confederation of Planets in the service of the Infinite Creator.
89.7 Questioner. Question 2. Jim has also felt very strong conditioning, which was unbidden while channeling Lat B recently, and in his personal meditations. Would you also tell us what occurred in these cases?
I am Ra. The entity which has been your companion has a vibratory frequency but a small amount lesser than that of the social memory complex known as Latviai. Also, Latviai is the primary comforter of the Confederation for entities seeking at the vibratory complex level of the one known as Jim. Therefore, this same companion has been attempting the contact of this instrument also, although this instrument would have great difficulty in distinguishing the actual contact due to the lack of experience of your companion at this type of service. Nevertheless, it is well that this instrument also choose some manner of the challenging of contacts.
89.8 Questioner. How many of our years ago was Ra's third density ended?
I am Ra. The calculations necessary for establishing this point are difficult, since so much of what you call time is taken up before and after third density as you see the progress of time from your vantage point. We may say in general that the time of our enjoyment of the choice-making was approximately 2.6 million of your sun years in your past. However, we correct this instrument. Your term is billion, 2.6 billion of your years in your past. However, this time, as you call it, is not meaningful, for our intervening space/time has been experienced in a manner quite unlike your third density experience of space/time.
89.9 Questioner. It appears that the end of Ra's third density coincided with the beginning of this planet's second density. Is that correct?
I am Ra. This is roughly correct.
89.10 Questioner. Did the planet Venus become a fourth density planet at that time?
I am Ra. This is so.
89.11 Questioner. Did it later, then, become a fifth density planet?
I am Ra. It later became a fourth/fifth density planet, then, later a fifth density planet for a large measure of your time. Both fourth and fifth density experiences were possible upon the planetary influence of what you call Venus.
89.12 Questioner. What is its density at present?
I am Ra. Its core vibrational frequency is 6th density. However, we, as a social memory complex, had elected to leave that influence. Therefore, the beings inhabiting this planetary influence at this space/time are 5th density entities. The planet may be considered a 5th/6th density planet.
89.13 Questioner. What was your reason for leaving?
I am Ra. We wish to be of service.
89.14 Questioner. I have here a deck of 22 tarot cards, which have been copied, according to information we have, from the walls of, I would suspect, the large pyramid at Giza. If necessary, we can duplicate these cards in the book that we are preparing. I would ascribe these cards represent an exact replica of that which is in the Great Pyramid.
I am Ra. The resemblance is substantial.
89.15 Questioner. In other words, you might say that these were better than, say, 95% correct as far as representing what is on the walls of the Great Pyramid.
I am Ra. Yes.
89.16 Questioner. The way I understand this, then, Ra gave these archetypical concepts to the priests of Egypt, who then drew them upon the walls of one of the chambers of the Great Pyramid. What was the technique of transmission of this information to the priests? At this time, was Ra walking the surface among the Egyptians? Or was this done through some form of channeling?
I am Ra. This was done partially through old teachings and partially through visions.
89.17 Questioner. Then at this particular time Ra had long since vacated the planet as far as walking among the Egyptians. Is this correct?
I am Ra. Yes.
89.18 Questioner. I would like to question Ra on each of these cards in order to better understand the archetypes. Is this agreeable?
I am Ra. As we have previously stated, these archetypical concept complexes are a tool for learn/teaching. Thusly, if we were to offer information that were not a response to observations of the student, we would be infringing upon the free will of the learn/teacher by being teach/learner and learn/teacher at once.
89.19 Questioner. In that case, I'll ask you. You stated that Ra used the tarot to develop the magical personality. Was this done by the system of learning to become, in mind, the essence of each archetype, and in this way develop the magical personality?
I am Ra. This is incorrect. The clothing oneself within the archetype is an advanced practice of the adept which has long studied this archetypical system. The concept complexes which together are intended to represent the architecture of a significant and rich portion of the mind are intended to be studied as individual concept complexes, as matrix, potentiator, etc., in viewing mind/body/spirit connections, and in pairs with some concentration upon the polarity of the male and the female. If these are studied, there comes the moment when the deep threnodies and joyful ditties of the deep mind can successfully be brought forward to intensify, articulate, and heighten some aspect of the magical personality.
89.20 Questioner. You stated that each archetype is a concept complex. Would you please define what you mean by that statement?
I am Ra. Upon the face of it, such a definition is without merit, being circular. A concept complex is a complex of concepts, just as a molecule is a complex structure made up of more than one type of energy nexus or atom. Each atom within a molecule is its unique identity and, by some means, can be removed from the molecule. The molecule of water can, by chemical means, be caused to separate into hydrogen and oxygen. Separately, they cannot be construed to equal water. When formed in the molecular structure which exemplifies water, the two are irrefragably water. Just in this way, each archetype has within it several root atoms of organizational being. Separately, the overall structure of the complex cannot be seen. Together, the concept complex is irrefragably one thing. However, just as it is most useful in grasping the potentials in your physical systems of the constituting nature of water, so in grasping the nature of an archetype it is useful to have a sense of its component concepts.
89.21 Questioner. In archetype number 1, represented by tarot card number 1, the matrix of the mind seems to me to have 4 basic parts to the complex. Looking at the card, we have, first and most obvious, the magician as a part, and what seems to be an approaching star. A stork or similar bird seems to be in a cage. On top of the cage, we have something that is very difficult to discern. Am I in any way correct in this analysis?
I am Ra. You are competent at viewing pictures. You have not yet grasped the nature of the matrix of the mind as fully as is reliably possible upon contemplation. We would note that the representations drawn by priests were somewhat distorted by acquaintance with and dependence upon the astrologically based teachings of the Chaldees.
89.22 Questioner. When Ra originally trained or taught the Egyptians about the tarot, did Ra act as teach/learners to a degree that Ra became learn/teachers?
I am Ra. This distortion we were spared.
89.23 Questioner. Then could you tell me what information you gave to the Egyptian priest, or Egyptian, who first was contacted or taught with respect to the first archetype? Is that possible for you to do within the limits of a first distortion?
I am Ra. It is possible. Our first step, as we have said, was to present the descriptions in verbal form of 3 images, 1, 8, 15. Then the questions were asked. What do you feel that a bird might represent? What do you feel that a wand might represent? What do you feel that the male represents? And so forth, until those studying were working upon a system whereby the images used became evocative of a system of concepts. This is slow work when done for the first time. We may note, with sympathy, that you undoubtedly feel choked by the opposite difficulty, that of a great mass of observation upon this system, all of which has some merit, as each student will experience the archetypical mind and its structure in a unique way useful to that student. We suggest that one or more of this group do that which we have suggested in order that we may, without infringement, offer observations on this interesting subject which may be of further aid to those inquiring in this area. We would note at this time that the instrument is having almost continuous pain flares. Therefore, we ask that each of the support group be especially aware of any misinformation in order that we may correct any distortions of information the soonest possible.
89.24 Questioner. Now, as I understand it, what you suggest as far as the tarot goes is to study the writings that we have available, and from those formulate questions. Is this correct?
I am Ra. No.
89.25 Questioner. Sorry, I didn't understand exactly what you meant with respect to that. Would it be appropriate then for me to answer the questions with respect to what I think is the meaning of the 3 items that you spoke of for card 1, and then card 8, etc.? Is this what you meant?
I am Ra. This is very close to our meaning. It was our intention to suggest that one or more of you go through the plan of study which we have suggested. The queries having to do with the archetypes as found in the tarot after this point may take the form of observing what seem to be the characteristics of each archetype, relationships between mind, body, and spiritual archetypes of the same ranking such as matrix, or archetypes as seen in relationship to polarity, especially when observed in the pairings. Any observations made by a student which has fulfilled these considerations will receive our comments in return. Our great avoidance of interpreting, for the first time, for the learn/teacher various elements of a picture upon a piece of pasteboard is involved both with the law of confusion and with the difficulties of the distortions of the pictures upon the pasteboard. Therefore, we may suggest a conscientious review of that which we have already given concerning this subject, as opposed to the major reliance being either upon any rendition of the archetype pictures or any system which has been arranged as a means of studying these pictures.
89.26 Questioner. All right. We'll attempt to do that. Ross stated that a major breakthrough was made when proper emphasis was put on Arcanum 22. This didn't happen until after Ra had completed 3rd density. I assume from this that Ra, being polarized positively, probably had some of the same difficulty that occurred prior to the veil, in that the negative polarity was not appreciated. That's a guess. Is this correct?
I am Ra. In one way it is precisely correct. Our harvest was overwhelmingly positive and our appreciation of those which were negative was relatively uninformed. However, we were intending to suggest that in the use of the system known to you as the tarot for advancing the spiritual evolution of the self, a proper understanding, if we may use this misnomer, of archetype 22 is greatly helpful in sharpening the basic view of the significator of mind, body, and spirit and, further, throws into starker relief the transformation and great way of mind, body, and spirit complexes.
89.27 Questioner. Were some of Ra's population negatively harvested at the end of Ra's 3rd density?
I am Ra. We had no negative harvest as such, although there had been 2 entities which had harvested themselves during the 3rd density in the negative or service to self path. There were, however, those upon the planetary surface during third density whose vibratory patterns were in the negative range but were not harvestable.
89.28 Questioner. What was Ra's average total population incarnate on Venus in third density? The number?
I am Ra. We were a small population which dwelt upon what you would consider difficult conditions. Our harvest was approximately 6,500,000 mind/body/spirit complexes. There were approximately 32 million mind/body/spirit complexes repeating third density elsewhere.
89.29 Questioner. What was the attitude just prior to harvest of those harvestable entities of Ra with respect to those who were obviously unharvestable?
I am Ra. Those of us which had the gift of polarity felt deep compassion for those who seemed to dwell in darkness. This description is most apt as ours was a harshly bright planet in the physical sense. There was every attempt made to reach out with whatever seemed to be needed. However, those upon the positive path have the comfort of companions, and we of Ra spent a great deal of our attention upon the possibilities of achieving spiritual or metaphysical adepthood, or work in indigo ray, through the means of relationships with other selves. Consequently, the compassion for those in darkness was balanced by the appreciation of the light.
89.30 Questioner. Would Ra's attitude toward the same unharvestable entities be different at this nexus than at the time of harvest of third density?
I am Ra. Not substantially. To those who wish to sleep, we could only offer those comforts designed for the sleeping. Service is only possible to the extent it is requested. We were ready to serve in whatever way we could. This still seems satisfactory as a means of dealing with other selves in third density. It is our feeling that to be each entity which one attempts to serve is to simplify the grasp of what service is necessary or possible.
89.31 Questioner. What techniques did the two negatively harvested entities use for negative polarization on such a positively polarized planet?
I am Ra. The technique of control over others and domination unto the physical death was used in both cases. Upon a planetary influence much in use to slaughter, these entities were able to polarize by this means. Upon your third density environment at the time of your experiencing such entities would merely be considered, shall we say, ruthless despots which waged the holy war.
89.32 Questioner. Did these two entities evolve from the second density of the planet Venus, along with the rest of the population of Venus that became Ra from second density to third?
I am Ra. No.
89.33 Questioner. What was the origin of the two entities of which you speak?
I am Ra. These entities were wanderers from early positive fifth density.
89.34 Questioner. And yet, though they had already evolved through a positive fourth density, they, shall we say, flipped polarity in the reincarnating in third density. Is this correct?
I am Ra. This is correct.
89.35 Questioner. What was the catalyst for their change?
I am Ra. In our peoples there was what may be considered, from the viewpoint of wisdom, an overabundance of love. These entities looked at those still in darkness and saw that those of a neutral or somewhat negative viewpoint found such harmony, shall we say, sickening. The wanderers felt that a more wisdom-oriented way of seeking love could be more appealing to those in darkness. First one entity began its work. Quickly the second found the first. These entities had agreed to serve together, and so they did, glorifying the one Creator, but not as they intended. About them were soon gathered those who found it easy to believe that a series of specific knowledges and wisdoms would advance one towards the Creator. The end of this was the graduation into fourth density negative of the wanderers, which had much power of personality, and some small deepening of the negatively polarized element of those not polarizing positively. There was no negative harvest as such.
89.36 Questioner. What was the reason for the wandering of these two wanderers? And were they male and female?
I am Ra. All wanderers come to be of assistance in serving the Creator, each in its own way. The wanderers of which we have been speaking were indeed incarnated male and female, as this is by far the most efficient system of partnership.
89.37 Questioner. As a wild guess, one of these entities wouldn't be the one who has been our companion here for some time in our sessions, would it?
I am Ra. No.
89.38 Questioner. Then from what you say, I am guessing that these wanderers returned or wandered to Ra's third density to possibly seed greater wisdom into what they saw as an overabundance of compassion in the Ra culture. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect in the sense that before incarnation it was the desire of the wanderers only to aid in service to others. The query has correctness when seen from the viewpoint of the wanderers within that incarnation. 89.39 Questioner. I just can't understand why they would think that a planet that was doing as well as Ra was doing, as far as I can tell, would need wanderers in order to help with the harvest. Was this at an early point in Ra's third density?
I am Ra. It was in the second cycle of 25,000 years. We had a harvest of 6 out of 30, to speak roughly, millions of mind/body/spirit complexes, less than 20%. Wanderers are always drawn to whatever percentage has not yet polarized, and come when there is a call. There was a call from those which were not positively polarized as such, but which sought to be positively polarized and sought wisdom, feeling the compassion of other selves upon Venus as complacent or pitying towards other selves.
89.40 Questioner. What was the attitude of these two entities after they graduated into fourth density negative, and, the veil being removed, they realized that they had switched polarities?
I am Ra. They were disconcerted.
89.41 Questioner. Then did they continue striving to polarize negatively for a fifth density negative harvest, or did they do something else?
I am Ra. They worked with the fourth density negative for some period until, within this framework, the previously learned patterns of the self had been recaptured and the polarity was, with great effort, reversed. There was a great deal of fourth density positive work then to be retraced.
89.42 Questioner. How is Ra aware of this information? By what means? Does Ra know the precise orientation of these two entities in fourth density negative, etc.?
I am Ra. These entities joined Ra in fourth density positive for a portion of the cycle which we experienced.
89.43 Questioner. I assume, then, that they came in late. Is this correct?
I am Ra. Yes.
89.44 Questioner. I didn't mean to get so far off the track of my original direction of questioning, but I think some of these excursions are very enlightening and will help in understanding of the basic mechanisms that we are so interested in evolution. Ra stated that archetypes are helpful when used in a controlled way. Would you give me an example of what you mean by using an archetype in a controlled way?
I am Ra. We speak with some regret in stating that this shall be our last query of length. There is substantial energy left, but this instrument has distortions that rapidly approach the limit of our ability to maintain secure contact. The controlled use of the archetype is that which is done within the self for the polarization of the self and to the benefit of the self, if negatively polarized, or others, if positively polarized, upon the most subtle of levels. Keep in mind at all times that the archetypical mind is a portion of the deep mind and informs thought processes. When the archetype is translated without regard for magical propriety into the manifested daily actions of an individual, the greatest distortions may take place and great infringement upon the free will of others is possible. This is more nearly acceptable to one negatively polarized. However, the more carefully polarized of negative mind/body/spirits * will also prefer to work with a finely tuned instrument. May we ask if there are any brief queries before we leave this working? Asterisk should be mind/body/spirit complexes, presumably.
89.45 Questioner. I'll just make the statement that I perceive that a negative polarity harvest is possible with less negativity in the environment like Ra's environment than in the environment such as we have at present, and ask if that is correct. And then is there anything that we can do to improve the contact or the comfort of the instrument?
I am Ra. Firstly, the requirements of harvest are set. It is, however, easier to serve the self completely or nearly so if there is little resistance. In the matter of the nurturing of the instrument, we suggest further manipulation of the dorsal side and appendages of this instrument and the whirling of the waters, if possible. The alignments are conscientious. We ask for your vigilance in alignments and preparations. All is well, my friends. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.